At the time, I was working for a gas station on the corner of Hogsback and Prince of Wales Drive, Bob Rafter Shell Station, and the construction workers from the site were coming in for gas and telling us about the pay we could make, over $2 an hour, as opposed to what we were making, probably 50 to 75 cents an hour. So it was pretty impressive. So we decided to try and get a job here, and luckily I did. Well, luckily and not so lucky. I started on the Tuesday, and of course the bridge fell on the Wednesday, but I had started working on the north span, and we were told to go to the south span because they wanted to get the end of it finished with the cement, shoveling cement and that. So over we went early afternoon. I guess it was around 3 o'clock or so by the time I got up there, and I started shoveling cement. And I had noticed at the far end, the west end of the bridge, there looked like 4x4 started to sort of fall over, and I didn't know why. And then all hell broke loose. The bridge, we didn't know it at the time, had collapsed. And of course, I was being buried in rubble, wet cement, everything that was falling apart at the time. Luckily for me, I was not stuck by any reinforcing rods, but one of them had caught my foot high enough so that I was able to wiggle out and get out myself on my own steam. Had I been knocked out, I probably would not be here today, of course, like unfortunately like a lot of them. But at the time I knew there was a friend of mine at the other end, and we had to find him because I thought he was buried. So we eventually went up there and found him, and he was sort of covered by 4x4s, and we managed to get him out of there. And luckily he just sustained a gash in the back of his head, and which we temporarily took care of at the time. And we made it to the hospital. I don't know how I got there, but we made it to the hospital, and luckily I just had a few cuts, and I was okay at the time, except for like strained back at the time, and I can live to tell about it. So I was very, very fortunate. Of course, now it's a lot easier to talk about it. It's hard to believe it's been 50 years, but once I sit here, everything comes right back. And it is a lot easier to talk about it now because of the 50 years, but it still holds a spot in my head and my heart about the construction workers that lost their lives, even though I was only there a day and a half. The actual tragedy is something that I'll take to the grave, and that's can't do anything about that, but you've got to remember about this bridge, and that's why I'm really pleased to see that they are renaming it in in lieu of the tragedy that happened to those workers. The thoughts I have now are what I would have missed, the people that I have met, friends, places I've been. Half an inch maybe either way, and my life would have been snuffed out at the time. And to get that extra 50 years, and it's hard to describe, hard to put into words, but it's the feeling that you were so lucky at the time, and you get to really appreciate life now.